take the weight on my shoulders. As I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Foul Territory Live winter meetings coverage in the evening after hours, literally, because winter meetings time is basically done. Braun and Kratz, and yes, we're going to jump right into Juan Soto and the Yankees and the Padres talking trade. We're going to bring in a friend in just a sec, but Kratz, as of right now when we're starting here, it's not official. It's not even like insider reporting official. But from everything I've seen, unless there is a medical issue with one of the billion players being sent from the Yankees to the Padres, this looks like it's happening.
Are we really getting this over with? Or are we going to catch a snag? Are we going to catch a 2009, 2010 David Adams, where Cliff Lee to the Yankees was done? And David Adams, yes, that David Adams, if you're really going back in your Yankees analogs of prospect history, he held up the deal because he was dealing with some kind of injury that was never disclosed. And I actually asked David Adams about it today, and he was like, yeah, it was something nagging that I had, and supposedly they didn't like it. So is that what's going to happen? Are one of these 19 people that the Yankees are trading away for Juan Soto going to have a hangnail that the Padres don't like?
I'm going to bank on us basically saying we're good, okay? Juan Soto is going to be inserted into the New York Yankees lineup and in their outfield, which also is going to be interesting to dissect what that outfield looks like defensively, and Trent Grisham too. So I'll read you the deal, and we'll bring in our friend Derek in about a minute. So it's Juan Soto, it's Trent Grisham, who should make about $5 million next year. This is his last ARB year, or is he? Yeah, I think it's his last ARB year. Whatever it is, that's what the number looks like. Doesn't matter. Michael King and Drew Thorpe, Randy Vasquez. What's Brito's first name? I should have written all these down.
Johan?
I got him. Johnny
Brito.
And what's the last one? The shocker. Your friend.
I don't want to say it. If we don't say his name, it might not happen. It might not happen. Kyle Higashioka?
Why would it not happen if people are putting the names down? He definitely has clean medicals, so he's
because he has the longest tenure. He has like 19 years in the minor leagues and like 5 years in the big leagues. He should be able to like request a no trade.
10-5 rights? Doesn't have him?
Doesn't 10 years in the minor leagues, five in the big leagues? I would love that. Would be awesome. Kyle Higashioka, the longest tenured Yankee, as we heard today on FT when we were talking to Tommy Canley, possibly could be added into this. The Padres could take another Yankees ex-catcher and put him to work. He's actually a very valuable piece behind the dish that the Padres, they value, just like the Yankees do, they value receiving. And that's why they went after Austin Nola, who's dealt with concussions now, and he's got, we heard that from Aaron Nola when he was on the show. He's got to deal with that kind of stuff. So they need a guy. Higgy may not be a guy that's going to catch 140 games, but his value behind the dish is ridiculous. And he's kind of become, I can't believe I'm saying this about my roommate, kind of a veteran. Could be kind of that quiet veteran leadership guy that knows a little Japanese too. So him and Yu Darvish will be buddies.
And the Soto thing for the Yankees, that's pretty good too. That'll be a nice
game.
That's nice.
That's not the medicals. That's not the medicals they're worried about.
No.
It's the Padres medicals of all
25-year-old top 5 hitter in the bigs entering his contract year. Let's bring in our friend Derek, star host of NYY Recaps. You can catch post-game recaps with Derek all the time, member of the FT fam. Behind the scenes, and sometimes when we need him right now, especially we really need you right now it's not Yankee therapy, actually, it's really the opposite. So is there jubilation right now for you and the Yankee fans that you are witnessing on social media?
Well, I think the best word to describe it right now is anxiety, maybe a little angst. I think Yankees fans want to get this in the rear view mirror so that immediately we can turn our attention to Yamamoto. It's clear that the Yankees need a left-handed bat. Verdugo's a nice pickup, but Juan Soto really gives you that, young, in his prime, power and contact lefty that the Yankees really haven't had since Cano. I think they were counting on Rizzo to be that guy, but he's had some issues. And, Soto is just going to change the entire feeling around the ball club. But until it happens, as Kratz was saying with the Cliff Lee trade several years ago, one little injury, one bad medical report, one shadow on an MRI can change this whole thing.
You need to see the press release to feel it. Yeah.
Until I see it from Jack Curry or Jeff Passan or Ken Rosenthal, our buddy, I just don't trust it. And the reason, really, honestly, I'm a very superstitious person. The reason it hasn't happened is because we're all sitting here staring at our feed, waiting for it to happen. A watched pot never boils, right? I remember in 2004 when the A-Rod trade broke. I was in college. I was helping my friend move a couch, literally carrying a couch, when the announcement came over ESPN News, which used to play in the background all the time. Now you never see it anywhere. But when it came over the airwaves, A-Rod is going to be Bronx bound. My soul left my body for a moment. I lost all strength in my arms, kind of like Kratz, and I dropped the couch right on my foot, right on my left big toe. I shattered my left toenail. I was a combination of immense pain and immense euphoria at the same time, hopping around. Let's go. And then when Giancarlo Stanton broke, I had just come back from a hot sauce eating contest that my friend, who's a hot sauce aficionado, had put on. And he needed one more person for it. I have a rough constitution. I can't do this. And so I had to stop at Walmart on the way home and kind of empty the tank, so to speak. And I was stuck in the bathroom for like 30 minutes when the Stanton news broke. My buddy texted me and I'm sitting here reading all this stuff. So as we're sitting here waiting for it, it's not going to happen. When everyone finally loses energy because we were staying up last night waiting for this to happen, and everybody kind of says, all right, I'm going to go to bed. We'll check in the morning. Then we're going to get the tweet from Ken Rosenthal, deal official.
Boom. There you go. Yeah, I feel good about it. I mean, but I'm not emotionally attached like you are. So I'm just like, yeah, it'll happen. Most of them happen, 99% chance. So let's like really grind this out on a couple fronts. So the two things I want to get your immediate reaction to are, number one, on the offensive side. Do we feel good about what's been constructed lately? Do we feel like more needs to happen when you look at a lineup that will be around, say, LeMahieu, Soto, Judge, Rizzo, Giancarlo when he's healthy, Verdugo, Glaber, Trevino, or Wells, and Volpe? Do you feel like you have the balance? Do you feel like you're good there and you just get to attack the pitching side? Let's start there, and then we'll get to defense.
Sure. So the balance is definitely going to improve with Verdugo and Soto. The question is Wells going to hit? Is Rizzo going to recover from his post-concussion syndrome? He did nothing last year for about 2 months when he was trying to play through it. They're saying that Giancarlo Stanton is dropping some weight and he's, going to have a big year. I'll believe it when I see it. I still feel like there's something in the organizational philosophy that probably needs to be tweaked. I know that they're saying this audit and all that stuff is not going to take effect until the following season, so that worries me a little bit. But I do feel like just having Soto in front of Aaron Judge, if you have them both healthy all year, that's going to be another 30 or 40 RBIs for Aaron Judge just because of how many base runners he's going to have on for him. Soto's going to walk in front of Judge a ton of times, or they're going to have to pitch to Soto in front of Judge, and that's dangerous. So I'm feeling a little bit better. I liked what I saw from Dominguez down the stretch, and we know that like the lineup on opening day isn't always the lineup that we're going to see at the end of the season should the team make the playoffs. I'm counting on when I'm thinking about the lineup, I'm thinking about the lineup going into the playoffs, right? I'm thinking Dominguez in center as a switch hitter at the top of the lineup, then maybe Soto in the number 2 spot, Judge in the number 3 spot. And Judge has been in the number 2 spot for a while, but I like having Soto hit in front of him, and I like having that true switch hitting leadoff guy who's very selective as well in Dominguez. I think once you get Dominguez back and you got Soto and Judge, I mean, that's a very tough top 3 in the order. What happens from there, we'll see. Is Rizzo going to hit? Is he going to stay healthy? Is Stanton going to stay healthy? Verdugo, I think, is probably going to, be what Verdugo is. He is playing for a contract in a contract year. Gleyber Torres in a contract year. Soto in a contract year. So a lot of guys in a contract year, Kratz can tell you, guys in a contract year will put in that extra gear, right, to try and put up big numbers. They'll maybe play through something. So I like where we're headed, but I've got to see it first.
So what you're saying is you're going to move your cornerstone captain out of the spot in the lineup that he has had extreme success because of a 1-year rental, because you think Juan Soto is going to get on so much more that Judge is going to have 30 or 40 more RBIs?
I do. I think he's going to have. Well, then he had this. I mean, think about what he did this. He missed half a season. He's going to probably play, a lot more games next year, assuming that the toe is better, and he's just going to have someone on base in front of him a lot more than he had this year. I mean, the Yankees didn't have a leadoff guy this year.
Okay, so 30 or 40 more that's a lot.
What do you have this year? About 70 ribby, 65. So you're talking about 100. I think he's going to drive in 100 again. I think he's going to drive in 100 plus. I think Juan Soto's going to drive in probably, close to 100 near the top of the order. We'll see.
You're frozen.
Am I frozen?
Refresh.
Go ahead and refresh.
Yeah, we'll refresh it because
my camera's frozen. Well, if you got my audio, I feel like Judge is just going to get a lot more opportunities to drive runners in with Soto hitting in front of him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's definitely that's not a cold take. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, Derek's gonna refresh, I think, for 1 second. He'll come right back because we want to see his expressions and his emotions.
I know. I want to see because he's fully vested into this.
Well, can I ask you this, Kratz, while we're on this with Judge, because you're talking about the lineup spot, I'm talking about the defense. How do you look at the defense right now for this ball club? And yes, I know there's pre-Dominguez and post-Dominguez, which also he might come back and spend more time in the minors. Who knows, right? Assuming he comes up at some point later in the year. Okay, but at least for the first few months, what does this team look like on a more regular nightly basis? Because Trent Grisham is looked at more as give a guy a day off, come in late in a ball game that's close for defense. Cool. Okay. All good. We mentioned this on our afternoon version of Foul Territory today. I don't feel great about Judge in center field on a daily basis. Not because I don't like the glove there. The glove there is probably about average in center field, maybe a tick above average for center field. And I know what Yankee front office people do, the numbers guys, the numbers side of things. They go, a center fielder who hits like that to plug into our fantasy baseball lineup that's real life? Guys, oh my gosh. And he said he'll do it. Great. But he also is a long-term asset that I just want to make sure is on the field, because even this past season, right, and it sucks, he got hurt. I'm not saying that, going in the corner is going to make you less susceptible, but it is a little bit. I mean, just the wear and tear. I'm talking about even just the long-term wear and tear is just such a physically demanding position to play center field. I don't want him playing too much center field. Am I being too nitpicky about this? Or do you think that, if Aaron Judge is rolling out there for 130 games or something like that in center, that would make me nervous. Number one thing, he's got to play. He's got to be on the field. So I got to put him in that position to do that. Not DH, obviously maybe here and there, but he's got to be on the field. I feel better about him in a corner, and that doesn't look like it's going to be an everyday main option for him to start the season. It's going to be center field, right?
Unless Trent Grisham comes in this deal.
But he does. But my point is, on a daily basis right now, I mean, Trent Grisham was a low to mid 600s OPS guy. He struggled the last couple of years, hitting south of 200. Yankees definitely are looking for more contact there. And maybe he does find something. We've seen that. I mean, he certainly has some talent there. But overall, on a daily basis, is this lineup not Soto, Verdugo, corners, Judge, center?
Yes, but it showed last year they had Kiner Falefa in center field, guy that had never played out there until this year, and he did an admirable job. So I think they feel like they can fit people into those positions, and I think it could be I have a tough time with the way that teams sometimes construct lineups because they're going by the overall value of what we feel like they're bringing to the table. And if they feel like his defense in center is enough of a value, they can easily go ahead and put him in center field, and he hits ninth. Somebody has to hit ninth. Not everybody on this team is going to rake. The issue is going to be is if you run Judge out there and he gets hurt, they're going to get a lot of scrutiny. And Judge is an incredible right fielder. And while right field is short, it's just like Fenway. It's short, but you have to be able to play it well. You have to be able to know how many steps you have to the wall because you're playing closer to the wall. You have to be able to know how to play those corners. And he's one of the best. He had the second most assists over the amount of games played in right field at second base. So he's cutting down runs in right field. I think they try to piece together center field. I'm not saying they put Verdugo out there. I'm not saying they even keep Verdugo, but I think they piece it together with whatever is – that might be their platoon position, as much as people don't want to see that. And I don't want to see you would never platoon at shortstop. Like you'd want a everyday shortstop. You want an everyday catcher. Well, the Yankees already have kind of a platoon at catcher. So you have to be able to – I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with Judge in center because he can do well. I just think he's more valuable in right field.
Derek at NYY Recaps, Derek on Twitter, and obviously check out the YouTube channel. It's legendary. Jump back in. What do you think?
So I've never been a big fan of Judge in center field. I mean, he's just obviously a much better, much more impactful player in right field. What people don't realize about Judge is he's got an extremely accurate arm to go along with the strong arm. And he's thrown out so many guys at second base over the last couple of years that were trying to take that, double against the short porch. He's obviously a humongous person. And he, when you don't have to cover a ton of ground in right field, you can get back to the wall. And he doesn't even really need to jump very much to take a ball out of the first row. We saw that against Lindor in the playoffs. Kratz might have even been playing in that series or Frazier, one of these guys was. But, we've seen him, pull balls back in center field, but it's just not the same kind of impact in center field that he has in right field. And I'm frozen again.
Every time you freeze, you get a thumbs up. So that's nice.
I see what's happening here.
I do too. It's from the new.
That stupid
I'm not gonna.
thing.
Yeah, it's a new Apple thing where if you show emotion, they AI the emotion with you. I'm just gonna stop.
We're gonna take it off real quick.
Ridiculous.
Here. I know.
Derek coming right back again.
And the question that I'm going to have for Derek when he comes back is this deal worth it if Juan Soto gets hurt? If Aaron Judge gets hurt? Because everybody's banking on the fact that G is going to get hurt, which I think is unfair to G. Is this deal worth it? Is the package you're giving up worth it to say, you know what? We're going all in. Like, is this, to use a poker analogy, do you get Juan Soto and now you have Juan Soto, you have pocket aces?
Dude, top 5 hitter in the sport.
I'm asking, is this worth it for what you're giving up?
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to hear what Derek, because we have to be able to ask that. Because then on the flip side, is it worth it for the Padres outside of the fact that they have to because of money? Is it worth it for the Padres to make this trade? Because this is the Padres' chance. I get it. They need $50 million, and they ain't getting it. They ain't getting $50 more million keeping Soto. So,
and they got their backup catcher, Derek, and they got pitching, including Michael King, who they can throw right into the rotation, who has high upside based on what he did towards the end of last season, plus really nice pitching prospect in Thorpe and more. I mean, and two more prospects on top of that. This is a great haul, and I was pretty strong about this for the last month and a half, that they were going to get a nice return based on this scarcity in the market of good position player bats and the opportunity to have a top 5 hitter entering a contract year, entering your team at 25 years old. That's freaking awesome. That doesn't come around often, even for one season.
There's a couple of things that I think the Padres fans are going to love. First of all, Mike King has got filthy stuff. Go back and watch the highlights of him pitching against the Toronto Blue Jays. And I believe his second start from the end of the season, second or third start from the end, struck out 13 guys over 7 innings. Kyle Higashioka, underrated part of this trade, really reliable backup catcher, surprising pop. He'll hit the big home run now and then. And he's a good kid. He's in there all the time. He's played as a starter for extended stretches, and I think the backup role suits him. Johnny Brito as a pitcher has good stuff, but I don't see him as anything more than like a number 5 starter, really. Same with Vasquez. Vasquez has kind of an unorthodox pitching motion, and I worry about his arm. Drew Thorpe is the wild card because he was the Yankees pitcher of the season or pitcher of the year in the minor leagues. But we heard Kyle Glazer, who came on a couple of weeks ago, compare him to Chris Paddock, which is why I'm surprised he's even in this move, because Chris Paddock came up with the Padres. They got rid of him. He's a changeup guy, right? So 92, 93 tops with the fastball. These days, that doesn't necessarily get it done. You want to go back to Yankees who basically have relied on the changeup without a strong fastball to go with it. You look at guys like Edouard Ramirez from, kind of that 2005 to 2010 period, came up as a lights out relief pitcher. And then once the league figured out he didn't have a fastball, they just laid off the changeup. So Thorpe, I think, has got to get a little bit extra on that fastball to really fulfill his potential. But the secondary stuff is there. So I think the Padres are getting a nice haul if indeed this does go through.
I'm looking at some comments right now too. I mean, we're all over the place, which are always enjoyable. Like Julian just said, what's on Soto's mind? If he doesn't accept a contract anywhere, he's going to end up like Puig. Julian, Juan Soto turned down $440 million. You can make a debate on if that was the right decision or not. I also think that he didn't want to necessarily stay in DC, but if he even does what he did just this past season, I think he'll actually be better this coming season with the Yankees if he's healthy. He is going to command $450+ million in the open market and be the most coveted free agent in the offseason next year, especially position player wise. If Wheeler ends up being a free agent on the pitching side, great. But I'm just saying, Juan Soto does not come around very often. There's also teams with regret. Even teams like the Yankees. This is a chance for them to make up for things years back when Brian Cashman said, "Nah, we're good. We have too many outfielders. We don't want Bryce Harper." Huh?
So let me ask you this, Kratz. Do you think there's a possibility Soto's power could actually go down at Yankee Stadium? If you look at his spray chart, he hits a lot of home runs to left field that are like maybe 390, 395. Those are outs at Yankee Stadium. And you said it the other day, those guys who are pull hitters, that's not necessarily a great swing. So Soto, his best I guess, way to impact the Yankees might be to kind of adjust back into more of that hit tool rather than the power tool, Go back to hitting more line drives, maybe a little lower launch angle, a lot more doubles to left field rather than hitting the ball out of the ballpark to left.
His swing, he has enough juice to go to left, yes. But his swing, you saw it actually in Home Run Derby 2021. At the end of the Home Run Derby, he was just trying to pull everything, and it was ground ball. At the end of the Home Run Derby, he started hitting the ball to left center. He went left center. And if some of them weren't going out, he didn't end up winning the Home Run Derby. This is a tough way to win a Home Run Derby if you're going oppo taco the whole time. But that swing right there, if you're watching, is Juan Soto's swing, because it's an extreme version of what DJ LeMahieu does. He takes fastballs to left center, which he's not going to get a lot of fastballs That's just the reality of the situation. He has the least chase of any major league hitter besides Max Muncy on fastballs out of the zone. And he's going to take a breaking ball, and that's the ball he's going to pull. So what it essentially eliminates is you have to throw a strike to Juan Soto because his chase rate is so low that you have to be able to throw a strike. Now, you throw a strike on a fastball, he is the highest impact. I think the stat is barrel. I think it's a barrel impact. I forget what it is, but he hits the ball the hardest against a fastball of any hitter in the game. That's why I couldn't believe Josh Hader threw him a fastball in the 2019 wild card game that Trent Grisham ironically booted coming in on. I say that to say this. You can get him out by throwing him breaking balls in the zone. It sounds silly, but what did I just say you do with a breaking ball in the zone? You pull it. Now all of a sudden the right field porch comes into play. So to attack him in Yankee Stadium is going to be different than the way you attack him in Fenway. Because now all of a sudden in Fenway, he's banging balls off of the monster. He's getting doubles in the gap. He may be able to put the ball over the fence in Fenway. So to me, you throw him more breaking balls when you face him in Fenway because I want to see him hit the ball out to right field, right center, because he's not going to pull the ball down the line. Go look up all his home runs. Majority of his home runs are in that power gap to gap. So I'm going to face him two different ways when I'm the Red Sox. When I am, Toronto, you can hit homers out of Toronto anywhere, but so it changes. So to answer your question, yes, I think Yankee Stadium might actually, if teams look at it and dissect the numbers, I think Yankee Stadium could actually, because he's such a good hitter, squash some of his power.
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the patience in the lineup. Judge is already the most patient hitter in the American League. Soto, obviously, the most patient hitter in the National League. And you got Dominguez was the most patient hitter in the minor leagues. So I mean, you put those three at the top of the order. They're seeing a lot of pitches, getting a good look at that pitcher's repertoire in the first inning. I do like that kind of grinded out approach. But then again, you worry about bullpens these days. Everybody comes out throwing 100 plus. So who knows?
I think he could still I think he's still learning the aggressiveness balance. I still think there's like a tick or two that he can go towards where he can be like, you know what? I'm not going to take a pitch here and there that I might have in the past, right? There's been times, I feel like the only time where he seemed a little bit off is he's so passive, right? And maybe not getting a few calls his way. And you're like, damn, dude. I feel like you can handle that pitch. I know it's easier said than done. Kratz, you're the former player on here, but that gets talked about a lot, even by teammates too. Obviously, Przinsky, who's on with us all the time, always says that. He's like, I need a little more aggressiveness from you. Easy to say for a guy that obviously liked to swing the bat. But I do feel like he maybe goes over to New York, sees some pitches that he might not have seen in the past. And I know he's coming from a good lineup anyway, but I just think if he's healthy, he's going to have a monster season. And this is a guy who was almost a 6-win player, like I mentioned, one of the top hitters, if you're going on some of the metrics and just from the eye test. I mean, this is a bona fide superstar in a contract year who has delivered in clutch moments too, starting when he was a young player with the Washington Nationals and a World Series winning player. Think about this. All the lights on him, a team that's coming off a really shitty season, and he gets to go there and try and prove to the world that he's worth $500 million. If he stays on the field, this is going to be a monster year for Juan Soto. I can't see us suddenly going, oh, dude couldn't handle New York. Or, I just don't see any of that occurring where it does happen with other players when they go to certain teams in the Northeast, right? We've seen that how many times with, this is not a Gallo situation. This is not Jason Bay going to the Met. This is none of that stuff, okay? He is so much bigger than that. I truly believe in that. His process is so damn good, and I do think there's still another level. He's 25 years old. He's younger than Josh Young, who was the probably second best rookie in the American League this year. He's almost a year younger than Josh Young, who was second to Gunnar Henderson in terms of position player AL rookies.
He's younger than Estevan Florial, who's like one of the Yankees like up and down prospects for the last few years. It's unbelievable how young this guy is. Look, I'm just super excited to see the Juan Soto shuffle in Yankee pinstripes. I'm excited to see what kind of reception he'll get. I can't wait for that first curtain call. I think he's gonna love playing in New York. I mean, just watching him play from afar, he seems like a guy who's all smiles. He's full of life. And New York really responds to that. We love guys with personality. And I just think that he's going to be an instant hit. Now, the question is, are the Yankees just going for it this year? Because if you get Juan Soto, and they're apparently still in for Yamamoto, looking to go past the $300 million final, the Steve Cohen level tax, if you believe the reports, and the Yankees going for it can be a scary thing. We saw that in 2009 when they brought in CeCe, they brought in Teixeira, they brought in AJ Burnett, they brought in Nick Swisher. The Yankees going for it, it's like a cheetah going for the kill, trying to run down that gazelle, man. It's like Mike Tyson getting in the ring. He's either going to knock you out or he's going to bite your ear off. He's going to be a problem either way. That's what when the Yankees are flexing that financial money and going all in, they're a problem.
You're right. Go ahead, Kratz.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I was just doing some checking in on what Scott Boras just said. Juan Soto's age right now is the age that Aaron Judge was his rookie year.
Yeah.
Like, are we kidding? Like, this is what you're getting into. And I think he's just, I don't think he's done what he is capable of doing. But I'm also super in on Juan Soto. The first time I ever saw him play was 2018 when I saw him and Acuña. And I said he was going to be better than Acuña for the duration of his career. So right now I'm wrong.
Is he about the same age, Acuña?
Yeah.
Roughly?
I think Acuña's a tick older.
Yeah, Acuña's a little older.
I think Acuña's a year older, but I'd have to look at that.
If you had to pick a player for the rest of their career, you can draft one of those two guys for your team. Would it definitely be Acuña? I mean, or would it be Soto?
Now, not
right now,
considering anything that happened,
in the
right?
past that we know has happened, like who projects better over the next decade and a half?
For the next 15 years, I take
15.
Juan Soto. I mean, that has been my stance, so I have to stick to it. I have a bet that's been going since 2018, and I just talked to the guy, and he was like, "Well, it doesn't look like it's going too well for you," and I'm like, "Hey, this is a lifelong bet."
Also, I think the aging process will work differently for those two players.
Exactly.
Acuña is the total package, but also the legs portion of your game changes. Everybody says it won't change. Every single player loses that eventually. And Juan Soto has a skill set, I think, that will age very well. And hey, Acuña cut down Ks a lot. His plate discipline has gotten significantly better too. But still, I understand what you're saying. Like, I mean, the amount of the way that Acuña uses his legs eventually leads to greater injury risk long term. And also, I just think in terms of Soto's hit tool and plate discipline, I do think he's got an edge there. It's not a massive edge anymore, but it's an edge still. So I'm with you. And I freaking love Acuña. And I was asked this question all the time 5 years ago, Kratz. And I will say it's on the record on some TV channel that you have to pay a lot for. But I picked Acuña back then. But now we've just gotten 5 incredible years of Acuña. I'm looking forward for the next 10 years. I'd probably take Soto.
One thing I love about Soto, as opposed to some of the other guys the Yankees have, he's got a very normal-sized human body, right? Which means a normal-sized strike zone. I mean, he's what? He's like 6 foot tall, right? How tall is he? Somebody pull that out. He's got to be. He can't be more than
a big boy. He's 6'2", 225. Listed.
Is he really?
He's all that.
He's still not 6'7", right? I mean, The Gallos, the Stantons, the Judge, these guys have enormous strike zones. I think that 5 inches probably makes a big difference in terms of having to cover pitches. And if anybody knows about 5 inches making a difference, it's Erik Kratz.
Yes.
Well, Todd Frazier's going to be on the show tomorrow, and he is the biggest fan of 4.5 with the extra length on the bases.
If there's a superpower, and if you're listening and you have kids that are learning to play baseball, there's a superpower. Everybody talks about hit for more power, hit for more power. If you can control the strike zone, and it's so hard to do when you're coming up through, little league, high school, even college, guys are getting more off of the plate. It's not fair. Oh, the big league guys, they have, their strike zone. When you learn the strike zone, and that means you learn your strike zone, what you can do damage on, that is the greatest superpower that you can teach any kid. Because if the kid doesn't have power, he's not just going to miraculously develop power as a 5'5" hitter. There's one Jose Altuve. But controlling the strike zone will play for as long as you have vision, it will play for the rest of your career. And that's where I feel like Juan Soto is going to have a better career overall, because he doesn't need to rely on essentially your legs are gimmicks. You saw what happened to Acuña in last year, 2022. Great year. I mean, he had a good year, but he did not have an MVP type of year. And what everybody say, oh, his knee wasn't healthy. Well, guess what? When you're 30, your knee ain't that healthy, just in general. Like you're just, you're going to have residual issues with that. You're going to be like, I got to stretch this thing out a little bit. The old knees are barking.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of times in recent years when the Yankees get somebody, it's like, if this guy can stay healthy this year, he could be great. If this guy can return to form, he'll be great. There's none of that shit with Juan Soto. He plays 150 plus games every year. The guy posts, which is super important to me, and it's super important to fans. And, Yankees fans complain a lot about the lineup changing every day. It seems like the lineup changes every single day. There's probably 145 different lineups last year. Just having Soto in there to anchor whatever spot he's in, I think is going to make a big difference.
And by the way, so who was it? Someone just said in the chat, no, Acuña is younger. G Poppy, no, you're wrong. Acuña is about to turn 26 years old in 2 weeks, and Juan Soto turns 26 years old after this coming regular season. So, sorry. They're close, but it's almost a year apart. Derek, we got another guest flowing in a sec, so appreciate you as always. And for anyone that loves what's coming out of his mouth and wants to hear more on the Yanks, NYY recaps, obviously we post about it. You'll see, his Twitter pop up and the YouTube channel and the whole deal. Go support the fam. Yes, Kratz?
I got one question. I saw a guy today. He goes, if this Soto trade goes down, I'm going out to get a Yankee Soto jersey. Is there such a thing as a Yankee Soto jersey, or is it just another jersey with someone's number on it?
It could be a Jimmy Key jersey. It could be a Harrison Bader jersey. It could be Robinson Cano's first jersey. It could be a Roger Clemens jersey. 22, no name.
So you don't need. It could be
Ellsbury.
a Jacoby Ellsbury jersey.
Yeah.
So just
hope you saved yours.
Just recycle your Jacoby Ellsbury jersey or your Chase Headley jersey, whichever one. I guess Chase Headley was 12, but
I have a 12 jersey because that was the number that Roger Clemens wore when he first got to the Yankees before he switched it to 22, and I wore 12 in high school, and I just kept that jersey. It's too small for me now. I've put on a lot of weight, but I got it hanging on my wall.
There you go.
Love it.
Derek, appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it, guys.
And good luck to you during this. I know we're still following it. If you missed it earlier, you can backtrack to hear Derek talking about how it's not official till it's official. So the Yankee followers are still a little bit nervous about the medicals, but we're basically talking about it as if it's a done deal, kind of breaking in for a special Foul Territory edition here. And we're going to talk to Baseball America's Kyle Glazer about the prospect return for the Padres. We'll swing it over to the Padres side coming up in just a sec. So just to kind of wrap it up on the Yanks here. So two things for me, Kratz. Number one, I do wholeheartedly agree with many Yankee fans saying this is incredible. I'm so excited, but more needs to happen this offseason. I agree. And I think focusing on a big money starting pitcher is a good idea. Again? Yeah.
I mean, last offseason.
Who cares? It's not your money. It's not my money. Yamamoto, baby. Let's go.
But they didn't struggle with their pitching.
Starting pitching wise, who did you trust besides Garrett Cole last year?
I'm not saying it's not that I did. Garrett Cole's another level. He was.
So then what do you want? What do you want to do? Are you done? This is the best team in baseball?
I'm saying I don't think you need to. It's not the best team in baseball. but I don't think you can. Scott Fransky, the Phillies radio guy, once said, he goes, you can't have $20 million players at every position.
Yes, you can.
And that's like,
If
at
your
some
revenue
point,
is like $1 billion a year, you absolutely can. And I don't know, inflation and all that. But I
the
get what you're
Yankees have
saying.
a down year.
They can
Is
do
that why
more.
it's only $1 billion?
They just had a down year.
I mean, they had a down year revenue wise. That's why it's only $1 billion.
What, in terms of the normal 1.2? But here's the other thing. Think about the rest of the American League as well. I think the Rangers will do something. I know there were some fans in the chat asking about Josh Hader to Texas. I think we've been talking about that making a lot of sense as a move for them. Not sure if they'll bring back Montgomery, but it's a super strong team. Good farm system too. They just won a World Series. Astros will be strong again. I don't think they'll be that aggressive though this offseason. It certainly doesn't look to be the case. The Mariners are a disaster right now. I mean, they're a really good pitching team, but they are not taking massive steps forward like many people thought they would. Okay. AL Central, nobody scares anybody. The Twins are making nice progress and no one else is going to take steps forward really in that division. The Tigers, but I don't think they're a threat to the super teams right now in the AL. And now we're down to the East, which is obviously strong. You would think the Red Sox are going to improve their pitching, but I would give the Yanks the edge. The Orioles are very good, and I think they'll acquire a starter, and they'll be a pain in the ass to deal with this coming season. They also added Craig Kimbrell. The Rays are the Rays. They're going to reshuffle the deck and be competitive, but I actually could see them taking a step back this year. And I don't usually say that, but I could see them, winning 85 games instead of 90, 92.
Have to get rid of Glass now.
That's what I'm saying. The starting, think about it. Shane McClanahan, Springs, Rasmussen, all those guys getting hurt, and you're not getting maybe one or two of them back at the back end of the year. McClanahan's definitely not coming back from
Cal Quantrill.
TJ. I just think you look at the rest of the division. Obviously, the Blue Jays in the Ohtani sweepstakes is the big deciding factor there. Blue Jays fans are either going to be the happiest fans of the offseason or the most pissed off fans of the offseason, in my mind, because I do believe in the unicorn budget. And I think that if they don't get Ohtani, they're not spending that money elsewhere. They might do something, but I don't think they're going to necessarily go, cool, we're just going to go nuts with the same budget that we had. So let's bring in our next guest right now. Baseball America's Kyle Glazer joins us. And he's had a super, super busy week too. Obviously, there's the draft lottery and the Rule 5 draft going down today and prospects moving. Not crazy amount of trades yet, but Kyle, great to see you, dude. And let's get right into the big news that would obviously make the winter meetings go from super meh to okay, with Juan Soto reportedly almost on his way to the Yankees. We have dissected that for the past 30 plus minutes. What can you tell us about the return that the Padres are getting? So two levels here. Give us the lowdown on the players that you can, Kyle, and also, do you think it's a nice return for them? Like, is this what you expected for 1 year of Juan Soto?
Look, the Padres need major league ready starting pitching in the worst way. Right now, their starting rotation is Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, and a whole lot of question marks. They needed arms and also guys who could help them in the bullpen a little bit. So if this trade goes through, they've addressed the need for pitching, not just this year, but in future years as well. You look at Johnny Brito, you look at Randy Vasquez, you look at Michael King. All these guys have a few years of control left. All of them have experience starting games in the majors. Now, none of them have a ton of experience starting. You look at Brito and Vasquez, neither of them threw 100 innings last year. Michael King primarily has pitched in relief in his career, started a little bit. So starting games well for a month or two is different than doing so over a full 162-game season. Nonetheless, these are all upgrades over what the Padres had in-house in terms of major league ready arms. Then you look at Drew Thorpe. He's a really, really interesting pitching prospect. Fastball changeup guy. The breaking balls come along a little bit. I saw him back to his days at Cal Poly. Really good competitor. Had one of the best seasons in the minors last year. Won 14 games. Had a 2.5 ERA. Got up to AA in his first full season. Again, change-up pitchers, sometimes the numbers they put up in the minors are better than what they'll do in the majors. At the same time, he should be at least a solid number 4 starter. So none of these guys the Padres got project to be number 1 or 2 starters, but that's okay. They needed guys in bulk to fill out a rotation. And realistically, they got 3 guys who could potentially pitch in their rotation for them this year, plus a top pitching prospect who could do so in future years.
So do you feel like a Drew Thorpe is going to haunt the Yankees for getting rid of him? Or do you think he's a guy that the Yankees would have never given a chance because he doesn't have that, 97 to 100 fastball that are the guys that they're calling up? Or as starting pitchers, especially if they go and get Yamamoto, who I think we're going to talk about later, they're just going to get relief. I mean, free agent starting pitchers. So Drew Thorpe is almost like guaranteed, hey, it's good I'm getting out of here. I get a shot with another team.
This has kind of been the Yankees' MO. They have pitching prospects, and they almost always use them in trades. Drew Thorpe certainly has talent. Ultimately, he projects more to be kind of that number 4-ish starter, someone who's valuable and helps your team, but not really a guy you ever say, oh gosh, I'm so bummed we let him get away. Again, players exceed expectations. You never know what's going to happen. But I think for the Yankees, when you look at how desperately they needed left-handed impact bats, they needed guys who don't swing and miss much. They need a lot of things to kind of change the dynamic of their offense. What Juan Soto brings them, even if it's just for 1 year, there's a fairly good chance that, they'll be happy with what he gives them. And the starting pitchers, while maybe they go on to have some success in San Diego, whether it's Thorpe or the other guys, the Yankees can say, okay, we can live without them, especially if they go out and sign some of the big starting pitchers you guys have talked about, like a Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and the fact they've upgraded their offense the way they have.
So let's get into that right now. Kyle, you're plugged in. Oh, go ahead, Kratz. You got one more, and then I'm going to take us in a different direction.
No. I was just going to say with his profile, comparatively, when Sean Markham broke into the big leagues, he was a softer throwing pitcher that was out of college, that came up through the minor leagues really fast and had a very successful career. Now, there's been comparisons of Drew Thorpe to Chris Paddock, but Chris Paddock's he had 99 in the tank. Like Drew Thorpe doesn't have that. So comparison-wise, he's essentially a thumber that can or cannot go right into the big leagues right away if this trade goes through and the Padres put Michael King in the big leagues and Drew Thorpe right in the big leagues.
Yeah, Thorpe wouldn't be the one they put in the big leagues. It'd be Brito, Vasquez, and King are the guys that go to the big leagues. Drew Thorpe barely got to Double-A last year. He needs a little more time. I wouldn't quite call him a thumber. I mean, he can sit 92, 94. He can scrape a 95. It's not like he's up there throwing 88, 89. So there is some fastball velocity there. One of the things with him is he's been so secondary heavy over the course of his career. This day back to his college days, I remember watching an entire inning. He didn't throw a single fastball. It was all changeups and sliders. So there's some sense that as he's starting to throw the fastball more, his arm speed will pick up a little bit. He's a good athlete. He's got some physicality there. He was just so secondary heavy in college that there's a sense that might have taken away from his arm speed. So there is a sense there might be a little more in the tank here, but you're right. He's not going to throw 99, but he's 92, 94. He's got a really good changeup. And one of the big differences between him and Chris Paddock's curveball was just awful, just to be frank. I remember seeing it in the minors. You talk about the 20 to 80 scale. It was a 30 grade curveball. There were times it flashed higher, but it was just not a competitive pitch. Thorpe's is a little bit better than that. Again, it's not a great pitch, but he can lob some in there that are usable and solid. He'll flash you an average curveball. So I think the pitch mix is a little bit more diverse, and ultimately that will help him be a starter in the major leagues, perhaps a little more. At the same time, he's not ready from day one. He barely got to Double-A last year. He needs to start in the minors. This is more Vasquez, Brito, King being the guys who would step right away into the Padres pitching staff. Whether all three are in the rotation or you put King in the bullpen and bring him up as a swingman, it's going to depend on what else they do this offseason. But those are the three guys you say they're on the opening day roster, not so much Thorpe.
Okay, so Kyle, this deal gets official somewhat soon, we would think, right? Yeah. Medicals, and there's a lot of players involved getting checked out. And then it's not like the market's going to suddenly go nuts, because I still think that Shohei Ohtani is holding a lot of it up. There are dominoes that will fall, right? Others that are at the top of the market that are waiting to see which team misses out, and then that will raise a price tag. With that being said, at some point, the international market is going to take center stage. And this is a very highly talked about international market. So let's dive into that. Obviously, some of it relates to fans that are in here right now to learn about the Yankees or the Padres, because the Padres are going to be dancing, I think, potentially in the international market as well. So I'll kind of open the floor to you to give me, you can even maybe rank it. I don't know if you've done it, but some of the top players available, if you want to do a top 3 or top 5, and give us the lowdown on who's going to be available right now. And we know who number 1 is, but I think there are a lot of people that don't know much about, say, 2 through 5, and they're going to get paid as well.
Dramatic pause.
I stumped him.
Yeah, dramatic pause. I feel like this is when Juan Soto is going to sign. Or get the trade's going to go through, because last time we had Kyle on,
Craig Counsell signed.
Craig Counsell, old CC went to the South Side.
That's right. We'll bring him right back on though. But I want to talk about Yamamoto. I want to talk about Imanaga. I feel like a lot of people don't know much about, and he actually is kind of a more, not a thumber, because the fastball is high spin, but I think he's clocked like at 90, 91. No,
Yes, it is not very Imanaga you're talking about, right?
Yeah, Imanaga. Very different pitching profile, which it's a great change of pace, and I think it's one of those where it could really work, or it could be like, oh, this does not play in the bigs. You know, not play at all. I'm just saying, like, I think there's a lot of variance in terms of what his results could look like, where Yamamoto obviously is much easier to prognosticate, and is on a different planet anyway in terms of his pedigree. So let's bring Kyle back. Kyle's the expert here. So Kyle, I'll restage the question quicker. Give us some rankings here on what the international market's going to look like, because, you know, teams like the Yanks, the Padres, the Dodgers, the Mets, etc., they are definitely playing in those waters as well.
Yeah, so I actually have an article up at baseballamerica.com right now where I talk about all 7 players in this year's international class coming over from Asia with the ranking. Look, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, that's the guy. I mean, right off the bat, he's going to step into a rotation on opening day, be a number 2 starter, has a chance to contend for Cy Young awards. This is the next in the line of great Japanese pitchers to make the jump to MLB. He's going to be one of the best pitchers on any team he joins. So I think there's no question he's the top player in this class. You look at Jung-Hoo Lee, the South Korean outfielder, is number 2. His dad's a legendary Korean baseball player. He was known as the Korean Ichiro, one of the great nicknames too, Son of the Wind, for his legendary speed. Jung-Hoo Lee has been kind of a baseball prodigy. He's kind of like the Korean version of Bo Bichette, Vlad Jr. a little bit. Famous dad, known since he was young, skipped the minors entirely in Korea, went straight from high school to the KBO. Really, really gifted contact hitter. It's probably going to be average over power, but I mean, he has a chance to hit 280, 290, even 300, 10 to 15 homers, and play solid defense in center field. He projects to be a really good everyday center fielder in the major leagues. Those are really the 2 guys you look at and say, yeah, these are the studs. Shota Imanaga, the lefty, and Yariel Rodriguez, the Cuban righty who pitched in Japan last. Those 2 guys are a little more divisive. Imanaga is a crafty left-hander with a deep assortment of pitches. He doesn't spin the ball great, good fastball, good splitter, and he kind of has 3 different versions of his splitter. So knows how to pitch, move in and out, locates his stuff, but there is some concern. His stuff tends to tick down over the course of outings. So in Japan, pitchers only throw once a week. There's not much concern Yamamoto's stuff will tick down moving to once every 5 days. There is concern Imanaga's stuff will tick down moving to once every 5 days. So there's some sense he probably ends up that crafty left-hander, number 4 or 5 starter if you really like him. There's some evaluators out there who think he'll be better in kind of a swingman role, go in, give you 5 innings when you need. He can come pitch out of the bullpen, give you 2 to 3 bulk innings a different day. So he's a little more TBD. And Yariel Rodriguez really fits a late inning setup man profile really well. Fastball slider, really intense, kind of emotional. He pitched well enough as a starter in the World Baseball Classic. Teams are looking at him as a starter. Realistically, he projects to be kind of that hard throwing but inconsistent and frustrating number 5 starter if you do start him. Whereas if you just put him in the bullpen and let it eat in the 7th or 8th inning, he could be really good for you. Those are kind of the consensus top 4 guys coming over from Asia this year.
Scott's muted, so I'll go. Either that or he's
my bad.
You're good.
I like that. Okay, here I am. I muted myself. So my follow-up here is, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but Kodai Senga had a brilliant first season with the New York Mets, and it's looking like a bargain. Like, if you knew you were going to get something like that in your first season, and this is how it's going to translate to the bigs, and I still think he might be able to take another step in command and keep bringing down the walk rate. He probably would have gotten double or more during this free agent process. One thing that they did was make sure that they gave him an extra day pretty frequently, very frequently, from what I can recall. So do you think that will be more of a model for pitchers coming over from Japan? Yamamoto might be different because I know he is a different beast on the mound. I know he's not a big dude, but I mean, people have said like kind of just a freakish athlete. I'm not as concerned about how that translates, and he's 25 years old. But I'm wondering, like, say for someone like Imanaga, does he become more of an every sixth day kind of pitcher?
Yeah, it depends on the team and their willingness to do that, but there is a sense that if he does move into a role kind of like that, where you build in an extra off day of rest, you just line up the rotation a little bit like that, you probably will get a slightly better version of him. Like you said, Yamamoto, there's no concern. In Game 6, the Japan series, he threw 138 pitches and touched 98 miles an hour in the ninth inning. I mean, the guy is a stud. He holds up, no problem. In terms of Imanaga, though, yeah, there is a sense that, again, if you can give him that extra day off, he might be better for it. I will say Kodai Senga was an absolute stud in Japan. Not quite Yamamoto's level, but close. Part of the reason his salary was depressed a little bit was he had some injury issues, but the talent was always there. So I think the fact that, Yamamoto, there's no injury issues, he's going to get paid. I am surprised there's some rumblings that Imanaga might get paid as much as Senga or more. That would surprise me because Senga was just a vastly better pitcher. But every year is different, and if teams don't have the injury concerns and they kind of like the idea of a lefty, maybe someone will do it.
Yeah, I just think based on the market and how many teams desperately are looking to make a splash, you're just going to get to this point where a few teams are on the outside looking in on the names that they were coveting. So, and I think that's why the Padres got a nice return for Juan Soto. A different year, maybe there's a ton of position players available, and the return's not the same, right? So I wanted to ask you a follow-up here from a fan. Ethan goes, Roki Sasaki better than Yamamoto. Look him up. And I've read about him a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you believe that that's the case? And can you kind of educate people on what you know about him? And I mean, I don't know what his current situation is, but is he still years away from being eligible based on the posting process? Where is he at?
Yeah, Roki Sasaki is better than Yoshinobu Yamamoto. We've written about him. You can go back and look at our World Baseball Classic rankings where we had Sasaki 1 and Yamamoto 2 in terms of top 10 foreign prospects. He is a freak of nature. He's pumping 100 with let me put it this way. He's the kind of guy when you watch him on video, you mutter curse words under your breath like holy expletive. It's explosive stuff. I mean, it's just absolutely disgusting. It's unfair to the hitters. The fastball, the breaking stuff, the splitter. You talk about 20-80 scouting skill. You could put 370s across the board. This is elite stuff. Great athlete, a little bit bigger than Yamamoto, a little bit younger. In terms of his timeline, it's going to depend a little bit on whenever his team wants to post him. It would probably be 2026-ish. Again, it's going to depend a little bit on posting or versus, coming over as a free agent, but he's someone teams absolutely love. There's no question. He is the best pitcher in the world, not currently in Major League Baseball. That's pretty undisputed. So yeah, when he comes over, he's going to get a mass amount of money. I talked about Yamamoto projects to be a number 2 starter from day one. Sasaki projects to be a number 1 starter from day one, and arguably one of the 5 to 10 best pitchers in Major League Baseball.
Do you think Yamamoto's a 2, ends up being a 2, or is he an ace? Like I'm a World Series contender. I want him in game 1. I want him pitching 3 times in a series. Do you think he ends up being that way? Because even just obviously both are great, but the difference between 1 and 2 right now, I mean, you're looking at a pitcher that, according to many reporters, is inching closer to the $300 million mark in terms of what he's going to cost teams.
Yeah, I'm not surprised he's going to get 200 million. 300 million definitely surprises me a little bit. It's certainly possible. We talk about the line between a 1 and a 2. There are a lot of guys who you might say are number 2 starters, but have a few seasons where they pitch like number 1s. I think one of the big things with him that makes teams so intrigued that there might be some more in the tank is his curveball is a really, really good pitch, 76, 78, kind of a rainbow curveball. It's a plus offering, freezes both left-handed and right-handed batters. And in Japan, it wasn't used a ton. He did throw it, but Japan, the pitching style is very much fastball split. So there's a sense that when he gets over here, he starts using that curveball more. It's just going to give him another weapon, open up his arsenal even more. And maybe that does help him get to that next level where he's a number 1. Part of the number 2 projections are most teams and scouts and evaluators are very, very hesitant to say anyone's a number 1 starter. That's in the minors, that's internationally, because a big part of it is showing you can hold up for 200 innings and also just have that mentality of it's a win day. And you don't really know if a guy has that until he's in the major leagues doing it. So there's that hesitation, but let me put it this way. no one would be surprised if we look up in 5 years and Yoshinobu Yamamoto is a number one starter in the major leagues. It's absolutely possible.
If Yamamoto has Masahiro Tanaka's, one of my good friends, career, is that a successful career for Yamamoto in the next 7 years?
I think it has to be. That would be multiple time All-Star who contended for Cy Young awards at his peak. I think if anyone was disappointed with Masahiro Tanaka's career, their perspective needs a big adjustment.
For sure. And he's a playoff pitcher. And I feel like these Japanese pitchers, while they have to, like, the adjustment from playing in Japan to America is huge. But you see them because of their pitch ability, and he can shape pitches. Yamamoto can shape pitches all the way from his 76, 78 curveball to his 82 to 89 mile an hour slider, which then shapes into his 90 to 93 cutter, which then shapes into his exploding fastball with a short arm angle. And I think that stuff plays in the playoffs. I think sometimes they Japanese pitchers pitch so much during the season. It's like, oh, I got to make this pitch and that pitch and this pitch. And then when it comes to the playoffs, they're like, I'm just going to go with the best pitch in that day. And they can throw so many of them. And I'm excited to see if a young pitcher at 25 has the ability to pitch like that at the highest level.
And again, the Japan series is very different than the World Series, different stakes, different level of ability, but he has shown that big game ability. I talk about in the Japan series this past year, he got hit pretty hard in his first start and he bounced right back, came back in game 6 and pitched a complete game, allowed 1 run and struck out 14 batters, breaking Yu Darvish's record for most strikeouts in a single Japan series game to force a game 7 for his team. You know, his team, it was win or go home. He went out and delivered one of the best performances in Japan series history. So that's another factor here. You talk about his ability to, shape pitches, kind of that feel, that pitch ability, but he also pitches with a chip on his shoulder. He's a smaller guy who faced questions, a lot throughout his career. He was not a first round pick, considered a golden child. He's had to prove himself every step of the way. He's aggressive. He's fearless. He goes right after hitters. Here's my best stuff. Hit it if you can. Talk about playing in the playoffs. That plays. I mean, you can speak to it a lot, Eric, as guys start nibbling or if they get nervous or they start doubting themselves, opposing offenses sense that and just tee off on them. He doesn't have that. He has that mentality of, I'm going to beat you. Here's my best stuff. Try to beat me if you can.
Love it.
Kyle, awesome getting you on here. Thanks for jumping on. Obviously, big night, and we were looking for it for a while. And I know it's not official yet by any means, but we're anticipating it. So thanks for breaking that down and the international market. And actually, we didn't get to finish that from last time because Craig Counsell so rudely interrupted you by signing with the Cubs. So appreciate you, Kyle. We'll have you back on soon, okay?
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And you can follow all of Kyle's work. We'll post it on FT Twitter and some of those clips as well. And like he mentioned, he's got great articles right now up on Baseball America, including also his colleague JJ Cooper put up an article on the draft lottery, which I found fascinating the other day. It was really good. Or it was yesterday, I guess. All right, so let's do a little slap hands action, and we will take like 2 to 3 questions to finish up the evening edition of FT Live. Here we go, baby. All right. So I'll start with D-Rod. Will the Red Sox be appealing to Yamamoto? They aren't looking too good right now. I don't think they're going to be one of the finalists. I think I'm feeling the Mets, Yankee, Dodger, if they don't get Ohtani kind of situation going on there. Maybe Giants too. I would say those are the 4 that stand out to me. I don't see it for Boston. Cubs, yeah, 5. I don't see it. And you haven't heard a lot of buzz, have you? Or at least read a lot of buzz from the people that we like to read about with Boston tied to him. I'm starting to now buy more of my Jordan Montgomery thing because, I mean, first off, I think he'd fit well in that environment. I think, his wife's in Boston, so that would actually be an awesome fit. She'd be like, thank you very much. But also, obviously, they'd have to offer the most money. I think they're capable of doing so. So I could see a Boston versus Texas versus maybe one of those other teams that doesn't end up with Yamamoto. But I don't see Yamamoto for Boston. You?
I don't see it, But Yamamoto, as much as Shohei is the silent assassin in this whole thing, like he's just quietly doing whatever he wants, Yamamoto seems like he's doing the whole tour. Like he was courtside out in Gold State. Like he's doing the tour, and I think he could be a guy that would go to the Cubs possibly. He could be. I don't think if the Dodgers don't get Shohei, nobody's outbidding for Yamamoto unless the Dodgers are looking at his metrics and saying, "Nah, we don't want that life." But I just think the Red Sox are going to be okay waiting to see who's left at a certain point. And that's why I said earlier today on the show about Imanaga. I think his price profile is right in Red Sox like, hey, look what we did. We did it. And it's neat. Like, come look at our cool thing that we got. Like, I think there is – I don't think they're in the Yamamoto category as much as I don't think if the Yankees if the Yankees get Soto here, I don't think they're as pushy with Yamamoto because they made that big splash. At some point, the Yankees, you're building this team, you're Brian Cashman and you're Hal Steinbrenner, and you're going, you guys need to step up. Carlos Rodon, you need to step up. We bought the highest valued free agent pitcher on the market last year. So we don't need to do it again because we have guys that need to step up. I'm not saying they can. I know it's not my money, but I just don't see them getting to the finish line of the outbidding process, and that's why I have Yamamoto going to the Giants.
Okay, I like it. By the way, D-Rod also asked, what's the final package for Soto? We can show you what's being reported by people right now, so check this out. Yankees getting Grisham and Soto, and the Padres landing Johnny Brito, Michael King, Drew Thorpe, Randy Vasquez, and Kyle Higashioka. That is what it looks like.
And I have two of the guys on that list saying they will text me when they know. So don't feel like it's unless Ken Rosenthal finds out before the guys who are actually traded finds out, which, hey, it's happened.
That happens a lot of the time, though, because they wait till medicals, and as soon as medicals are approved, someone tells someone like Ken, and he puts it out there, and you can't make a phone call in 1 second to 7 dudes.
You don't want to tell somebody as a team, you don't want to tell somebody they're being traded or called up until it has happened. I had a teammate who at the trade deadline had his bags packed when he got to the field in AAA because he was going to a charity event or like a community service thing. And when he got back from the field, his bag was unpacked. He found out after that season he was getting called up, but the trade that brought Jeff Karstens from the Yankees over to the Pirates ended up they put Karstens in the big leagues, and this guy did not go to the big leagues. Sad story. He never made the big leagues. So you just don't tell guys until it's actually happened.
Yeah, it's got to be real.
Wilmer Flores.
Although that was emotional and wild. Wilmer in tears.
But that's why we know about it, because it was emotional.
Yeah, exactly. It was emotional. Justin asking about Harper asking for a contract extension. We'll get to that on tomorrow's FT Live. We'll make sure Todd Frazier is involved for that one so we can really talk it out. And then some people asking about the Rangers and the Orioles. So we'll finish with that. Yeah, I think the Rangers are going to be active. I don't think they're going to be crazy active. You haven't heard their name for some of these guys at the top. I mean, you did hear their name tied to Ohtani. I think there's the potential that Ohtani maybe just wasn't interested in going there. And as we know for certain, we don't know much about what's going on inside his brain. You just haven't heard them as a finalist or that he's met with them or anything. But, I mean, we keep talking about Hader. That's not the only guy. I mean, they might miss out on him, but I think they'll still look for another big bullpen piece. Like, if not Hader, I think they'll go after Jordan Hicks, someone like that towards the top. Big, potential to be a high leverage guy at the back of a bullpen. And then, yeah, I still think they could look to bring back Monty or another starter to have that depth. Chris Young takes that starter depth and buying it, I think, more seriously than most teams. They're good on offense for the most part. Sure, Ohtani you'll take. And maybe they bring back Garver. I mean, he fit really well there, but their lineup is really good. And Wyatt Langford's coming up this year too. That'll move Evan Carter to center. It's going to get better. So I'm a fan of what the Rangers got coming this year. I think they were elite a year earlier than most expected for a reason. So watch out.
Evan Carter, Rookie of the Year, unless
Possible.
Yamamoto comes into the American League, then he might just visit a second place trophy.
In the National League, you're saying?
No, Evan Carter.
Right. In the American League, you're saying he doesn't win Rookie of the Year?
If Yamamoto is on an American League
Oh,
team.
Yamamoto. Yeah. I always forget
Because
this
whole class of Yamamoto and Junho Lee and Imanaga, like guys that have experience. That's why I didn't choose Senga because I wasn't as big a fan. But I'm blanking. I chose Seiya Suzuki when he was a rookie 2 years ago. Started out hot. He could control the strike zone really well. He didn't end up winning Rookie of the Year, but like guys with experience while the Japanese league, the MPB is not as good as Major League Baseball. It's much better than AAA, and these dudes have been playing there for 6 years. So there's a reason they're coming over, and they have a leg up. Let's put it that way. And Evan Carter is hoping that Yamamoto signs with the Giants so that he can win Rookie of the Year next year.
That's true. And lastly, for the Orioles, we've talked a lot about them. I know there are a lot of fans excited about what they might do. There was one fan in here, sorry, I'm going to miss on some names here and there, but it said, I see them actually doing a signing for their number 2 starter. But then I'm like, well, who is that? A fan mentioned Waka. Okay, I think for Baltimore, I've been big on this. They need to push some chips in and make that trade if they're not going to be balling at the top of the starting pitching market. Because there are a lot of guys available that are kind of mid-tier starters that could be 3s and 4s and 5s, but they need a 2. So I don't really see that in the marketplace without paying way more money than they would ever pay for a starter. Like they're not signing Snell, Yamamoto, Montgomery, right? Can they be in play for Waka, Lugo? I don't even think they're in Eduardo Rodriguez territory. So in my mind, Kratz, I think the trade route's the way to go because they got to push chips in. I'm telling you, you're in the AL East. Things change quickly. Who knows? Maybe some of the rookies or the young guys that did well have a down year or get hurt. They were a really healthy team too, which does happen when you're younger. They don't have Felix Bautista for probably the entire season coming off of Tommy John surgery. I know they have Kimbrel replacing him. Bautista's better. So just saying, there's pressure on them, but I think they've already lowered expectations because the owner continuously throughout the year kind of came out and said that they were poor. I would say that he's not going to spend. I don't want to say they're poor. They're super rich, but just saying we're not going to operate like you think we're going to operate. We tanked, but now we're good and we're not spending much. So don't expect too much. They'll spend a little bit like they just did today, but they're not going to go nuts. This is not what I think some people expect, right? Some people expect, hey, I'm the Cubs. I tanked for 6 years. Then I bought Lester and brought all these dudes in, and I kept paying the guys that we had and kept everyone together, and boom, we won a World Series. And then obviously it didn't work out as well as they thought it would afterward, but this is not that situation.
They are, I would call them, and this is why earlier I said about them with Imanaga also, is I think they are under 100 million type of team. I think they're I think Eduardo Rodriguez maybe gets a little too pricey for them. But I think they're a trade and a $60 to $80 million pitcher. Imanaga might command that with his posting fee. They're just filling out that rotation. But the reason I think the Orioles will still be good is because this lineup, this everyday lineup, this core is anchored by Adley Rutschman. It is anchored by Gunnar Henderson. It is anchored by a breakout O'Hearn. Like these guys are coming in with the success that they can do this. And those are the everyday guys. Yes, I get it. You need starting pitching. They'll find starting pitching. They need this. They are a team that's not going to be afraid of the Yankees getting Yamamoto. They're not going to be afraid of the Blue Jays getting Shohei Ohtani because this team won over 100 games and the lineup it's not the Braves, but they are young, they are energetic, and they absolutely come to play every single day. I just don't see them touching the starting market, and that will be their flaw. I think that is
this past
bad.
trade deadline. That was their flaw, you know. A
What's
lot of
their
teams
flaw?
did it. Mike Hazen openly said it for the Diamondbacks, who weren't expected to go this far, but he was like, "Hey, if we get Jordan Montgomery, which they were trying, what is the postseason? What does the World Series look like for them?" But that's what happens. You got to go for it. You got to gun it. And I'll finish with this. You got Kratz hats for us, by the way, or is that an FT hat?
Oh, I mean, FT is one of my
There you go.
teams. You
No,
can
I
go
like
to the shop and purchase this, John.
That's right. FoulTerritoryShop.com, baby. And
I mean, it's so
sweatshirts coming
comfortable.
soon. It's great. Shirts, hats,
Especially with
wristbands, the whole
Christmas
deal.
coming up.
Smash
Everybody
a like
needs
and a
good
subscribe
FT.
for us. We're hustling, and the people behind the scenes are hustling right now a ton too. So we appreciate everyone behind the scenes helping us put this together. We'll leave you with this. Bob Nightingale said the Padres are at the professional baseball scouts dinner, so it will be hours or perhaps tomorrow until a Soto deal is finalized.
Thank you, Padres. I hope they got the steak.
And a few glasses of wine. Clear head in the morning. Make sure you're sure about this. But anyway, we'll see everyone on FT Live tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Myself, Kratz, Todd Frazier, and guests joining us, including Mike Petriello, to break down some of these moves. We'll see you then. Thanks, everyone.